Imagine waking up one morning, and by nightfall, the entire world is moving toward war. No warning, no countdown. Just one moment that changed human history forever. This is not just a war story. This is the story of how the modern world was born. Welcome, my friend. Today, we are diving into the most destructive conflict the world had ever seen. A war so powerful, it pulled entire nations, families, and generations into chaos. This was World War I. Before 1914, Europe looked calm on the surface. Cities were growing, industries were booming, and people believed progress would never stop. But beneath this calm surface, pressure was building. Empires were competing for power, land, and influence. Every nation wanted to be stronger than the others. Military strength became a symbol of national pride. Armies were growing larger, weapons more deadly. This dangerous competition was called militarism. At the same time, Europe was divided into powerful alliances. If one country went to war, its allies would follow. It was a system designed for security, but it created a trap. Nationalism was also spreading like fire. People believed their nation was superior to others. This belief fueled pride, but also hatred. Meanwhile, empires were fighting over colonies across the globe. Africa, Asia, and the Middle East became battlegrounds of influence. This rivalry is what historians call imperialism. Europe was not at peace, it was waiting to explode. All it needed was a spark. That spark came from a place most people had never heard of. A region known as the Balkans. A place filled with tension, pride, and unfinished conflicts. And in 1914, one single event changed everything. The shot that would drag the world into war.
The Balkans were known as the powder keg of Europe. Many ethnic groups lived here, each dreaming of independence. Austria-Hungary controlled large parts of this unstable region. But not everyone accepted this rule. Serbia wanted to unite Slavic people under one nation. Tension between Serbia and Austria-Hungary was reaching a breaking point. On June 28, 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand visited Sarajevo. He was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. What was meant to be a routine visit turned into history's deadliest mistake. A young nationalist named Gavrilo Princip waited in the crowd. Moments later, 2 gunshots echoed through the streets. The Archduke and his wife were assassinated. In that instant, Europe crossed the point of no return. Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia for the attack. With Germany's full support, Austria-Hungary prepared for war. Germany promised something called a blank check. This meant unlimited military backing. Serbia, however, was not alone. Russia stepped in to protect its Slavic ally. Now the alliance trap was activated. Germany declared war on Russia. France, allied with Russia, prepared for battle. Germany followed its war plan, known as the Schlieffen Plan. The plan required invading Belgium to reach France quickly. But Belgium was a neutral country. When Germany invaded Belgium, the world reacted. Britain could no longer stay out. In August 1914, Britain declared war on Germany. Within weeks, Europe was fully at war. What began as a regional conflict became global. Soldiers marched with excitement, believing the war would be short. They were told they would be home by Christmas. No one imagined the nightmare ahead. Modern weapons met old military tactics. The result was devastating. As armies clashed, the front lines froze. This was the beginning of trench warfare. A new kind of war had begun. A war of waiting, suffering, and survival. And for millions, there was no way back. By the end of 1914, The war had completely stalled. Both sides dug deep trenches to defend their positions. These trenches stretched for hundreds of miles. They became home to millions of soldiers. Life in the trenches was brutal. Mud filled everything: boots, weapons, even food. Rain turned trenches into drowning pits. Rats fed on dead bodies and supplies. Disease spread faster than bullets. Sleep was rare. Fear constant. Between enemy trenches lay no man's land, a place filled with barbed wire and corpses. Crossing it often meant certain death. Machine guns cut down advancing troops within seconds. Old tactics failed against modern weapons. Generals ordered attacks from far behind the lines. Soldiers paid the price. Soon, the war introduced terrifying new weapons. Poison gas drifted silently across battlefields. Men choked, blinded, and died in agony. Gas masks became a soldier's best friend. Tanks were introduced to break the stalemate. They crushed barbed wire and crossed trenches. But early tanks were slow and unreliable. The skies also became battlefields. Fighter pilots dueled in the air. They became the first air heroes. Artillery caused the most destruction. Shells rained day and night. The constant noise shattered minds. This condition became known as shell shock. Many soldiers never recovered. Battles like Verdun and the Somme became slaughterhouses. Millions died for just a few miles of land. Families back home received endless death letters. Hope slowly faded. By 1916, the world was exhausted. Yet the war refused to end. Something had to change, and soon a new power would enter the war. By 1917, the war had drained Europe completely. Factories struggled, soldiers were broken, and civilians were starving. But one major power had stayed out of the war: the United States of America. At first, America wanted to remain neutral, but the war kept pulling America closer. German submarines began attacking ships at sea. Even ships carrying civilians were sunk. The sinking of the Lusitania shocked the world. Then came the Zimmermann telegram. Germany promised Mexico U.S. territory if it joined the war. America could no longer stay silent. In April 1917, the United States entered World War I. Fresh American troops arrived in Europe. They brought new energy to exhausted Allied forces. Germany launched one final massive offensive, but the Allies pushed back. American soldiers fought bravely in key battles. Germany's allies began to collapse. Inside Germany, people protested against the war. The German emperor was forced to step down. Germany had no choice but to surrender. On November 11, 1918, the guns finally fell silent. World War I was over. But peace did not come easily. The war had killed over 16 million people. Empires collapsed. New countries were created. The Treaty of Versailles punished Germany harshly. Many believed it planted the seeds for another war. The world promised this would be the war to end all wars. History would later prove otherwise. World War I changed warfare forever. It reshaped borders, politics, and human thinking. It taught humanity the true cost of war, and it left scars that never healed. This was not just a war between nations. It was a war against humanity itself. And its lessons still matter today, because history repeats itself when we forget. If this story made you think, then imagine what other untold histories can teach us. This was only one chapter of our past. Many more stories are waiting to be told, and we will explore them together. So if you want more real history, more deep stories, explained simply, then make sure you subscribe to this channel, because history is not boring. It's the story of us.